most of the time it does involve it, but it's usually never the answer you think. So you spend another $100 to save 10. I don't want to go to the studio because it's too expensive, right? Okay, so you spend another $100 to save 10. And you still got a production that's not quite up to what you want. Now, that said, I'm only talking about high-end production for the stuff that's really, really important to you. Mark Holcomb from Periphery, I think he summed it up best. He goes, don't worry about making the money off your songs. Just worry about making really good songs and building the fan base. The fan base is what's going to build your studio, right? Because they're going to buy your, maybe your t-shirts, maybe your download some of your songs, whatever. And if you're lucky, then you can, upgrade. But if you're on a tight budget, for myself, I think, yeah, get something, an idea machine versus a home recording studio. Almost everybody that's like, oh, I got this great production off of the most simplest thing. And you see this in a lot of, it's like, I seen a meme one time and it sums it up perfectly. There's this guy building a birdhouse, this really extravagant birdhouse with the most, in his shop, right? But you're like, oh, it's really easy. You can put it together in 5 minutes, but you look at the wall, the whole wall is just full of tools, every tool known to man, whereas the average guy doesn't have that. So yeah, it's going to take him a lot longer, right? Well, recording is the same thing. Oh, you could just use this cheap mic and use a cheap mic in a $100,000 treated room. It's going to sound better than, you know what I mean? Like it's in the most optimal environment possible, where if you're in a typical room like this where you're going to get stuff bouncing off the walls. Yeah, you can put blankets on the walls and stuff like that, but that still doesn't do it. It's not a dead room. You know what I mean? It helps, but it's not the answer. So the point of the video is basically there's a lot of people, they're just like, how do I do a studio for $2,000, $1,500, $1,000, $500, right? And the thing is you have to stay within the realistic expectations of that. Yes, you will probably get if you already have your computer, yes, you probably just get the software and the the audio interface, and you probably will produce really good idea stuff to a very satisfactory production too. It's not going to sound bad. It's just not going to be as phenomenal as you'd like it. And you will really notice this once you start doing stuff outside the machine, so to speak, like guitars. You plug it right in. Excuse me. Oh, geez, I was rude. You plug it right in to the machine, and it's a direct signal and whatever, and it sounds cool and everything like that. But then you start doing vocals, and vocals is now like an acoustic instrument. That's where you really have to. You really have to have things set up right, or you're just not going to get good vocals, and you're going to hit that limitation, right? And you might find a reasonable solution that will work, right? But you're never going to get that $1 million performance. You know what I mean? And the thing is you can't expect that. And what'll happen is the guy that buys, say he starts a studio for like $500, is at $5,000 really quickly, spending $100 to save 10. Oh, well, this will fix my problem. This will fix my problem. This will fix my problem. Well, you got to look again, even if you just go do tours of studios, just say, hey, I'm looking at a studio. I'd like to see what you have offered. Can I do a quick tour? And a lot of the studios will say, yeah, look how they got things set up. Look what they're using. Sometimes they might even be using the same thing you're using, like the Logic Pro and whatever. But in the environment that they're using it in, you know what I mean? They're getting the most out of it. Like they're recording with the best tools to do it. So whether they're doing acoustic guitars, electric guitars, big loud amplifiers, or direct in, they've got they've got compressors, they've got everything they could possibly need, everything to eliminate the 60 cycle hum. They got all those things. And that stuff does make a difference. It does make a difference. So think of it not really as much as starting a studio, but having a good idea machine. And an idea machine would be something like this, or like say your laptop with the audio interface, and just, work on getting the ideas down and the recording process. Use that as your learning tools. Find out what the limitations are. Don't spend too much money. Like, go visit other people, see how they're doing, do lots of research, because you'll save yourself a lot of money, and you might even come to the conclusion that it's not worth it for you to create a studio. Like, if I had to create a $10,000 studio, how many albums could I produce for that in professional studios, right? And say, yeah, but I'm unknown, no one's going to buy my music, right? Well, that's true, maybe not, but you only get known when you put yourself out there. And I'm not saying go spend 10 grand in a studio. What I'm saying is write your songs, get the ideas down, and build your audience, build whatever. And then when you find that, okay, the audience is big enough and it's supporting you a bit, that's when you go to the studio and you do whatever. Now, mind you, everybody can do whatever they want, like in this regard. But what I'm pointing out is that you can spend a lot of money. Like years ago, we used to a band I was in, we rented the equipment to record. And again, try to record in my buddy's basement with the drums. Like we were recording on, $2,500 recording consoles at the time, and we just couldn't get good sound out of it. Like we just, it was like, we didn't know what we were doing from an sound engineer's point of view, so we didn't know where to put the mics for the drums and stuff like that. And B, it was like, renting that equipment was a waste of money because we couldn't get anything out of it. We didn't know what we were doing, and there was no tutorials or anything like that. There was nothing to really teach you how to use it, right? You had to learn by yourself. So now you've got all these teaching tools that you can get. So, problem is people rush out and they buy everything right away. And then you see the regret videos later on where it's like, oh, I bought this instead of that. And I'm pretty good at buying musical equipment. I tend to know what I'm looking for most of the time. I very rarely make a purchase of something that doesn't quite live up to the standard that I want. There's always something that's you're going to buy that is like, well, okay, I bought it, but it didn't do exactly what it did. Now I got to go buy something else, right? And that's what I'm trying to avoid people doing, is going to buying something else. Spending that $100 to save 10, right? Whereas, like, for example, as I was talking about the mics the other day, like upgrading microphones is not easy because you have to find something that's worth it to justify the extra price, right? Or else you're just buying the same thing over again. And then, you're going to run into the same problems with it, and you're just not going to... It's the same thing with guitars, violins, anything. Acoustic guitars, electric guitars, basses, amplifiers. I can get into the, that, but I think I've talked about amplifiers enough in the past month. So I hope that what's translating here is that if you're starting a studio, right, don't just jump into it. Like, go learn a bit first, and you'll be surprised how much that's going to save you. I know everybody's just, everybody has TikTok brain and got to do it right now. Right now, it's got to be, and there's that initial purchase of a bunch of equipment makes you feel like you're making progress. Then when you put that equipment together and you realize some stuff just doesn't work well with each other, or it's not optimized, or you could have got something a lot more for the money. It's that happens a lot. It happens a lot, and hopefully this will help it not happen so much. But if you're like a guy like me that's got like dinosaur equipment like this, and some people are still using reel-to-reels, I have no idea why you'd record on a reel-to-reel other than nostalgia, because it's not compatible with anything. I mean? The amount of money you'd have to spend just to convert DAT reels to digital would be, you know what I mean? And you would lose everything you would get off the DAT. The purpose of the DAT reels, you'd lose that if you were going to digital anyway, right? But there are people that do that, and they're like, well, I just play it back for myself. But if you really, what I'm talking about is more the people that want to share the music, you know what I mean? And you want to share the best music you can. Right now, I'm giving you, pretty crappy stuff, because it's what I can produce for now. But that's going to change. You're going to notice probably by the end of 2024 that even using still this machine, you're gonna start to hear some better stuff because I'm gonna start getting better stuff to plug into this, and not necessarily more expensive, just stuff more compatible. And that's going to change a lot. And the big one for me is getting the drums. Once I get the drums, now you're going to have fully composed songs rather than just, living with one beat through the entire song and annoying people that way. But, it's a great way to still, even, with a drum machine, it's still a great way to, uh, get ideas down and stuff like that. Now, a lot of people say, well, Reg, just download the drums. Well, there's a problem. Not compatible. You know what I mean? Like, so I can't just get drums off the internet, and which there are drum patches you can get, but it's like for me, the easiest solution for me is to buy a drum kit and learn how to play it rather than program stuff and stuff like that. I do know that, yeah, for the people that are set up where they can just, you know, spend a couple hours on just making the perfect drum lines, perfectly tracked and everything like that. Yeah, if you're set up for that, that's definitely going to help you a lot. But if not, go with the tried and true. Now, I understand also with drums that, the biggest problem with drums is they're drums and they're loud as hell, right? So it's like, where do you use them? My music room is pretty. The drum kit will basically take up all the oxygen, remaining oxygen in this room for sure. There's not a lot of space left. But the thing is that it will also give me the ability, like I say, to write songs complete. And when I could do that, then you're going to really see some of the stuff I can do, musically, right? So if I get songs that it's like people just